Hello, I'm Anita, founder of Anita's List and host of the Anita's List podcast. Over the last 20 years, I've helped more than 12,000 first-time parents choose all their baby kit and prepare for parenthood, both practically and emotionally. I'm delighted to welcome the inspirational Anna Buxton. Over 10 years ago, Anna and her husband Ed were clients of mine who had their 3 wonderful children via a gestational surrogate in both India and San Diego. Today, we're discussing the mothering experience in all its variety, with a particular focus on surrogacy. And Anna beautifully shares how she's using her experience to help others who are approaching parenthood via surrogacy. For anyone who is keen to support friends or family going through surrogacy, or is even considering surrogacy themselves, this is such a valuable way to spend an hour or so. I so hope you enjoy our conversation and find it helpful too. 10 years ago,
I know.
which is extraordinary.
Yeah.
How time has passed in that decade. You've been a very busy lady. And lovely Anna now has 3 children, Isla, Olive and Art. And we would just love to talk about your story and how you got here and a little bit about what you do now,
Sure.
helping other parents.
Yep.
On their way to parenthood as well. So let's start right at the beginning.
Yeah.
When we met each other.
I know. I cannot believe it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
That is crazy. It
Absolutely
is.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you and Ed came into the showroom. We had such a lovely conversation. And I feel like it was yesterday and yet not, because obviously quite a lot has happened in the meantime.
I know. I had been into a department store to look at maybe some baby things, and because I didn't have my own bump, I felt so conspicuous without it. And it was a really horrible experience. And then someone said, well, have you heard of Anita? And then Ed and I came in to see you and just had the most glorious couple of hours. And it was lovely, both from the practical side of what did we need for our baby, but also just talking to you and you allaying some of my fears and my concerns. So I still remember what a happy afternoon it was.
It's quite a moment, isn't it? And it's a little bit of a moment of, oh my gosh, we're actually going to have a baby. However which way they come, this baby is coming. And Ed was brilliant. It's always really lovely to have dads along as well, because it's quite difficult to translate that conversation when you're talking about all the kit in one go, because I think often the dads think, well, we don't really need that much, do we?
Exactly. So what that I always said to him, or he always said to me, oh, okay, I get it. That I do get that you need all this stuff. So yes, thanks to you, we got everything that we didn't get too much, but we got what we needed. And it saved sort of a big row about over ordering.
Well, that's the thing. It's a very odd shopping moment, isn't it? Because we don't know what we don't know, and it's very easy to overbuy. So I always think I spend half my time saying, no, you don't need that, or perhaps you need that, because you wise up as a new parent very quickly. But there are certain things you definitely need that will make your life easier. And so for our listeners, what I would love if you wouldn't mind sharing is your journey to pregnancy. So you got married to Ed, and lovely romance, which is still going strong. Beautiful relationship. And then thoughts to start trying for a family, and then things
did not work out as we expected. As I sort of alluded to, I didn't have a bump because, as you know, all 3 of our children were born with the help of a surrogate. Ed and I, got married, knew we wanted a family, started straight away trying, and got pregnant very quickly. And it all felt, we had just moved house, it all felt that it was meant to be. And this was the kind of normal pattern that everyone did. But not quickly, by about 8 weeks, I had a miscarriage. And I think we were obviously very sad about that, but thought, this is what happens and let's just try again. So we did, and about 2 months later, we got pregnant again. And then I miscarried again at about 8 weeks. And it was that point that we took a step back. It is a very long story of then what happened. But essentially, I had to have operations to remove my pregnancies because I had missed miscarriages, which lots of people will know what they are. But the operations that I had left me with something called Asherman syndrome, which is scarring of the womb, which makes it very difficult for an embryo to implant into your uterus. I've lost count, honestly. I think I had about 6 or 7 surgeries to try and remedy the problem, to try and get rid of the scarring. But every time it kept coming back. And actually after the 7th surgery, my surgeon said, that's it. I'm not operating again. If you want your own biological children, surrogacy is going to be your only option. So we were slightly catapulted into the world of surrogacy. And started looking at our options. And back then, there wasn't very little information. There wasn't very much information about it. There weren't people like you doing podcasts. So it was a very opaque, slightly murky area. Yes, you'd heard of celebrities, but Elton John and Kim Kardashian are not good barometers in terms of our life experience. So we started looking into all of that.
It's amazing. That surgeon, was that the same surgeon that had performed all 7 procedures? So you knew him quite well and therefore trusted him. And was that a blessing, do you think, in that moment that he said so clearly that actually perhaps now might be the time?
It really was. I think for lots of people who turn to surrogacy, they are never given a definitive you cannot carry. And so it becomes quite a hard decision. At what point do you stop trying yourself and moving on to considering third party? Same as donation. It comes a point, some people absolutely can't do it, but for some people that transition is hard. So when he said, that's it, no, it made the decision very easy because it was literally our only option. And given that we were still able to make embryos, it was a good option for us.
And that's an amazing thing, actually. And I mean, gosh, isn't it extraordinary? We get married, we think, great, found the guy, now I'll have a baby, tick the box. But the things that actually have to go right to conceive, let alone carry a whole baby. I mean, it's a miracle any of us
It's a miracle that any babies are born.
A miracle.
Yeah, I know.
And in that moment, I bet Ed was an extraordinary support.
He was. He really was. We never really veered from each other in terms of our drive to have children. And once we made that decision to go down the surrogacy route, and we'll come on to it, that was a very, very long and up and down journey. But I think what got us through it was that we both knew that we weren't really going to ever give up until we got our family. And whatever our family looks like.
Amazing.
But we were both together in that part. I mean, I think when we both look back at it, I think one of the difficult things about infertility is that it does feel at the time that it's robbing you of your life and taking away from your relationship. You feel like you're standing still. You watch your friends have their first, their second, your third, and you are not making progress. And lots of us are used to sort of, if I want something and if I work really hard, I'll get it. But that doesn't happen in fertility. So it was really tough, and we'd only just got married, but at least we were together in knowing that we were going to get there somehow in the end.
That's extraordinary. And I imagine for some couples it could work the other way. And if there are any little fissures in the relationship, that would be the moment that it cracks open.
I'm sure.
Did you feel it was sometimes you two against the world in that moment?
I think we did. If I ever take any positives out of all of this, one of the things is certainly the resilience that our relationship proved to have. We learned a lot about each other. Our relationship wasn't defined by it, but certainly it proved to be very strong, very resilient. And that's a really good thing. And who knows what the rest of life throws at us, but there's always going to be something. And knowing that together we can face whatever's thrown at us is a really comforting.
Yeah, it's an amazing, actually, it's a real gift early on in the first decade of your marriage, because actually often that tends to come a little bit later. And if you can have that, it is a gift, I think, in the first decade. I think you're pretty solid.
Good.
Because it's absolutely great. Oh, my goodness me. So then you had to research, oh, my goodness, where do we start with surrogacy? Because that's a whole different thing. And for our listeners who don't know anything about surrogacy and are coming to this really with new eyes, can you explain what the different options are?
Yeah. So there are essentially, you can consider surrogacy at home, so here in the UK, or international options. In the UK, surrogacy is entirely legal, but there are restrictions around it that make it a difficult environment. So you can't pay a surrogate over her expenses. No one can profit from the match. And when a baby is born through surrogacy, the surrogate and her partner are the legal parents, not the... So you're called the intended parents when you're having a child through surrogacy. So it makes it a less robust legal framework. You can't have a legally binding contract. So it's a grey area. And there just aren't that many surrogates. Yeah. So there are some wonderful charities helping, but they just cannot keep up with the supply and demand, and that you can't advertise it. It just is hard. And I know lots of people have had children through UK surrogacy and it has worked brilliantly. But match times, who knows, maybe 2 years, maybe 3, maybe 4. It's up to surrogates to pick the intended parents, which is right in a way, but it then leads to this sort of strange, pick me, I'm the most desperate in the room. And that's a really hard position to put yourself in. When we were trying, we quite quickly realised that the UK wasn't for us. I think the biggest thing was that we were then sort of 5 years into trying to conceive and then thinking, well, having no kind of clear pathway or transparency on when it might happen, I think we felt was too hard for us. And and I was getting older and they're telling you your clock is ticking and all of that. So we started looking internationally. And the environment has changed a little bit now. But really, you have the US, which not all states in the US, but some states in the US, where there is sort of airtight legal framework. You are the parents from birth, the intended parents are on the birth certificate. So that makes it, from a legal point of view, it's very good. You can have a legally binding document with a surrogate. And then there are plenty of agencies who can charge a fee, and a very large fee, to match you with a surrogate and recruit surrogates. So it is a much more, yes, commercial, but also, I keep coming back to kind of transparent, clear pathway, which is what you need. So that is almost the gold standard, as it were, but it does come with very high costs. And then on the other side, there's always a few countries that are sort of coming and going. When we started looking, the main 2 other destinations were the Ukraine and India. We couldn't do the US at the time. It was just prohibitively expensive. So we just knew we couldn't do it. So we were left with Ukraine and India. And however much we wanted a baby, Ed and I always said, we cannot let our desperation come at the expense of another woman's well-being or physical health or whatever. That just wasn't an option. So we started looking at both the Ukraine and India. Obviously, both destinations, we had heard some pretty upsetting things about how surrogates are recruited and treated. So we decided to really kind of go deep into the research of it. Quite quickly, we found that the Ukraine wasn't right for us. India, although initially I said no way, we talked to a couple of people who had done it in India. So we thought, well, maybe it's worth looking at further. So we went out there, went to 3 cities, went to clinics, agencies, lawyers, and we did see practices that we did not think were right and were upsetting, but we did find an amazing charity and a wonderful doctor who was going to collaborate with my doctor in the UK. And we really felt that it was something that we wanted to do.
Amazing. And just on that, how did you find that person who recommended a couple of places in India or who'd been through it? Because that must have been such a valuable conversation for you.
I spoke to a few friends and just friends of friends. And there was one couple actually who had done it and spoken about it. So we got put in contact with them.
Yeah.
And even though they had said it was great, I still felt that we needed to see things with our own eyes.
Yeah.
And actually, for people who are listening, India is no longer an option unless you're Indian. But there are lots of other countries that are in that position. So the Ukraine is still operating and people are still going to the Ukraine, which is terrifying. Georgia, Cyprus, various countries in South America. And I'm not saying to people, don't do it. But what I would say to people is, don't put the blinkers on. Just because someone's saying, oh, it's great and it's fine and it's you need to do the research and you really need to understand what you're getting into before you make a decision. Because it is so hard when you're so desperate to sort of slightly turn off and say, oh, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think later down the line that can cause problems. So yeah, as I said, we decided on India. We went out to India to create some embryos, which we did. And then at that time, we also met a potential surrogate called Shapala, which was quite an extraordinary meeting. She didn't speak English, so it was with a translator. And I was terrified and so nervous. And clearly she was absolutely terrified and nervous. And we didn't really know what to say to each other. And I sort of thought, well, what if she doesn't like us and she doesn't want to help us? And I think she thought, what if these people don't like me? Yeah. Anyway, we started talking about her children and her family, and she lit up and could just see that, that's what Ed and I wanted. So we decided to move forward.
Did you hug each other that first meeting?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. As we left, I remember, and I was sort of in tears. I think I remember she wasn't in tears, but felt a little bit. It's just a very emotional experience, and it's hard to put into words. Meeting a total stranger, and them saying, "Yes, I will carry your child for you."
It's a huge thing, and this was the first time for her in that role.
Yeah, she hadn't been a surrogate before,
so it was really woman to woman.
Yeah,
and just you don't really need words for that, do you?
No, I don't think you do. No. And I think when you're talking about building a family, people get it. I mean. Not everyone wants children, but if you do want children, it is an innate need and desire to have children.
Yeah. And being able to look her in the eyes and vice versa. Yeah. What an extraordinary meeting. I must imagine that you must have been quite teary over the next few days as well. It's such a big thing.
It felt really surreal. I'm not sure we really realised what we were doing. I mean, it's all a bit of a blur.
It's a crest of a wave, isn't it?
Just, But we created our embryos, and then we actually went back out to India for the transfer. We didn't need to, but we wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And then, flew home and waited for the phone call to tell us if we were pregnant or not.
Oh my goodness me! Yeah.
I remember sitting in the office and they called.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite believe it.
Oh my goodness. And did you explain to your colleagues at work what was going on? Did they have an inkling?
At that time, I don't think anyone I knew in the office had. I mean, I worked for a big, large organisation, and I don't think I knew of anyone who had done surrogacy, or at least hadn't talked about it. And I didn't tell anyone. So it was really hard.
Very isolating.
To go through. And I had already gone through 6 rounds of IVF to try ourselves, and I kept that all to myself. I realise now that was a huge mistake. And when I did finally tell them, they were very supportive. They rewrote they sort of said, oh, well, let's just use the adoption policy. And I said, well, don't.
It's very
because
different.
It is really different, and that's not fair to people who adopt, and it's not fair to me. And there's going to be more people along the line. So we rewrote the policy at work for surrogacy. And actually that in itself felt quite empowering, finally having the strength to do that. And I often say to people, share it with colleagues. You don't have to share it with everyone. You don't have to share it with your boss. Speak to your HR team. And it feels really good to stand up and say, listen, this is what I'm doing, and I'm really proud of what I'm doing. It shouldn't be something that's done in a secret at all. It's an incredible achievement to do.
Yeah.
So be proud of it.
Yeah. How wonderful. What a legacy that you've left at that company.
Yeah,
You've really changed things for the women coming after you, which is wonderful. And that's only 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was only 10 years.
And even now, I think people aren't really talking about surrogacy as much as perhaps they might. So I'm so excited to be talking to you about this today, because it's a big thing.
It is.
It's a really important thing. Yeah. And as you say, being able to share that. I mean, your colleagues probably thought, gosh, she likes India quite a lot. She's going quite a lot.
I remember the first time, it was an odd time, but we were going when it was really hot, and people thinking, well, that was an odd time to go to Delhi. Very hot.
She's not got it quite right. The seasons are off.
Exactly.
So then you had the magical phone call.
We had the magical phone call. And then we didn't then go out until Isla was born. So we had what felt like a very long 9 months. We had weekly updates from, most of the communication there was through the doctor. So we didn't get to foster the same relationship that I had with the twins as surrogates.
Yeah.
So we got updates from the doctor. And then I think every 2 weeks we would get a video message from Shapala just saying how she was. And then at least we could sort of see the bump growing and everything.
Yeah.
And then we decided to fly back out at about 37 weeks because we wanted to...
But it really could be any time from there.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
It could have been any time. We had to find an apartment, and it was in Delhi. It's not an easy city to
well, I
work
remember because
out.
I used to live in Delhi. Do you remember? And I connected you with my dad.
I know,
and he was so excited to be like, yes, let me help.
I know. And we kind of went through areas to live in, and it was brilliant. I always, slightly off tangent, but I always look back to how we had our children and just the sheer amount of people who were involved and helped. And that was
your village.
And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
So, yes, no, he was really helpful.
Oh, and you wouldn't have had that village support in the way that you did if you hadn't gone via the surrogacy route.
No.
Did you find so many family, friends, neighbours were just rooting for you the way?
I think, again, for our first pregnancy, I didn't really tell many people for a long time. I really felt conspicuous without a bump. And I think I was still carrying a little bit of, not shame, but maybe guilt and just being upset by the fact that I couldn't carry. By the time we got pregnant, I got more and more confident telling people what we were doing, but it still felt a difficult conversation. Yeah. And I think I was still coming to terms with what had happened. I mean, another thing, having gone through 6 surgeries, countless rounds of IVF, I never was given... By the NHS, I was never given any counselling.
No, but that's extraordinary. Yeah, that is extraordinary. Because you were going into this with the very clear knowledge that, my gosh, it's a miracle if any baby is born. So I imagine, even more acutely than anyone else expecting, you probably didn't even allow yourself to think that a little one was coming until you could actually physically see her.
Exactly. So, again, one of the things I tell to people now is, find a counsellor, find someone who does this, talk to them, because so many people come to surrogacy having had, either they've had some sort of trauma because they can't carry, or, for many same-sex couples, they often see it as an absolute blessing that they can have children. Often they will have come up to some prejudice or some doubt about how to do this. So, again, the more you can talk about it, the more professionals you can involve, I always think the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And how much control did you feel you had? Because when it's quite overwhelming anyway, going through a pregnancy, and then your wonderful, was it Shapala? Shapala. I'm so sorry, your wonderful Shapala. There she was carrying your baby. Were you sort of itching to get involved with, what should she eat? How should she exercise? But of course, that's not your
It's
thing.
not. And it is very hard because essentially you are not pregnant yourself, but your embryo and then your baby is in utero in this world, thousands of miles away. You're not there for it. I still kind of look at Isla and think, how was I not there for you for 9 months?
It's a miracle.
It's very hard to put into words how surreal it feels. And you have no tangible role in that pregnancy. Yes, you can try and support your surrogate as much as you want, but really, it's not about you. And so it's very difficult. And obviously, you want to think about, well, what are they eating? Are they exercising? What are they doing? Are they in too much pollution? But you can't do that. And I think when it comes to surrogacy, the success of a surrogate and intended parent relationship is about trust. And you have to trust that woman that she's going to look after your pregnancy in the same way that she would have looked after her own. And you cannot stipulate to another woman how to live her life and how to treat her body. That is just not respectful. And it's not going to lead to a nice relationship. So you need to be able to do that. And if you don't think you can do that, I don't think surrogacy is for you.
It's so interesting, isn't it? You made that trust decision that very first meeting.
Yeah.
You knew it in your bones. It's a sort of instinctive thing, isn't it?
It really is.
And I imagine if you didn't feel that Shapala was the one, you might have called it then.
I would have
maybe and said, very difficult in that moment. You know, you want to feel so trusting, but actually knowing she was a wonderful mother already, and it's a split second, isn't it?
It is a split second, and we can come on to it. We made some not so good decisions later down the line where we knew it wasn't right with another surrogate, and we didn't stop it, and in the end, it didn't work. So. Yeah, I would always say to people, you don't have to be best friends with your surrogate. I think with most relationships, like all relationships, they develop naturally. And sometimes you become great friends, sometimes you don't. But you have to trust that woman. And if you can't, it would be very challenging.
And she did a wonderful job.
She
and Isla was born.
Yeah.
And were you there for the birth?
We were at the hospital. We weren't in the room.
Yep.
From a cultural perspective, it wouldn't have been appropriate.
That feels appropriate, exactly. That you were where you were and she did her thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And we had spoken about how as soon as Isla would be born, she would come through to us. I would be the first person to hold her. And then Shapala could let us know when she wanted to hold Isla. So we had sort of, obviously birth plans never work. We tried to plan it as much as we could. But yes, we got the call, went into the hospital and waited and...
Amazing.
And there she was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And how magical, actually, that you ed Isla.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have too many visitors.
No.
If any, because you were in India.
Yeah.
And so to really nest in for that first 6... were you there 6 months?
So we were there 6 months.
Wowzers.
Which, because Isla was born... If you're not born in the UK, you don't automatically get a UK passport. Yeah. And if you're born in India, like other countries, you don't get a passport of that country because that's not what they do.
Yeah.
So Isla was left without a passport, and because surrogacy is complex, it took us 6 months to bring her home. And it was tough, and I remember we talked about it. Delhi is a big, huge, dirty city, and every day I would see things that made my heart sing about how beautiful and wonderful it was, and then things that you question humanity. So it's just that kind of such a contradiction. And having your newborn there was a challenge. But it was just me, Ed and Isla, and we'd waited so long for that precious little thing that we did. I think I probably look back with rose-tinted glasses now, but in my memory, it was a magical time. I always thought of you, though, because we had kind of planned what we wanted, and I was adamant that I would take my nice bugaboo out to India. And I remember you saying, "Are you going to use it much? It's not really a place for walking around." And I would take Isla out with this, big, nice, lovely new pram, and people would just stop and stare because people don't use bugaboos in Delhi.
Because we had the India list, didn't we?
Yeah,
and the London list.
We did.
But that's part of the whole nesting, and that was, interestingly, the kit side of things. As you go and progress through the surrogacy journey is one thing you're very in control of.
Yes.
So that was quite reassuring that, okay, great, I will have that and that will work. That was important. It was important at the time.
It was a really important part of, us being able to do something and prepare in a way that we didn't. Yeah. I didn't go to baby classes because I just didn't feel. I
Yeah.
wanted to be surrounded by
Yeah.
people practicing their breathing exercises.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a lovely part of the
Yeah,
journey.
I mean, gosh, my whole view is you're a superhuman, whichever way this baby comes out, and however and whenever, a human is alive, because of you and Ed, and a really lovely one. In fact, 3. So then we go on.
Yeah.
Then you went on and made 3 in total.
So we came back, and I think about sort of within about a year, we kind of started thinking about number 2. We always knew we wanted a bigger family. I'm one of 3, Ed's one of 5, but we also desperately wanted a sibling for Isla. And India had closed its doors then. So we were a little bit back to square one.
And how was that? Because there's something about the reassurance of having done it once before in the way you did.
Yeah.
Was it a feeling of a bit like snakes and ladders? Like, oh my gosh, we've gone up the ladder, now we have to go right back down the bottom
Absolutely.
again.
That's the perfect analogy for it. And we would have gone back to India, absolutely. And I sort of quite like the idea of being there with Isla when she was sort of 3 for 6 months, but it wasn't to be. And we thought, the UK would be perfect. But at the time, the charities that were supporting people, they were so overrun with intended parents. They were only helping childless couples. They weren't helping people with children. Right. And I didn't want to do, it is possible to match independently. There are Facebook groups, but that just wasn't for us. So we were back to the drawing board with, well, where to go. And I met a friend of a friend of a friend who had done it in Canada. And we thought, okay, Canada, that would be easy. Yep. Very nice.
Same language.
It would be much, much easier. And Canada has a similar, not exactly the same, it's sort of between the US and the UK, and that surrogacy is altruistic, but you can have agencies. And the legal part of it is a bit easier. So having done all our due diligence with India, having been so careful, having gone out and visited, we did not learn our lesson, and we jumped into Canada, basically doing no research. And that was honestly the hardest time.
And isn't that interesting? Yeah. And I wonder if that was the familiarity of the language, and it felt, because India, Ukraine, by definition, were less familiar. So you were always going to do more research, whereas Canada, the US feels like, we're
and we just
naively
already thought, well, India, Ukraine, it felt murky what was going on. I think we had a sort of Western bias that maybe they're not doing things correctly, whereas Canada's beautiful and lovely, and everyone's nice in Canada. So, and that's not to say people do it successfully in Canada, and there are some great doctors and some great agencies. We just went to the wrong one. We actually had embryos in the UK then, so we were able to ship them over to Canada.
Amazing.
And we joined up with an agency, and it took about 6 months to be matched, which was fine. I wish we had the strength to say, no, this isn't right. But it's that kind of cruelty of infertility that you don't stop. You keep going. You kind of just see a baby ahead, and you can kind of lose yourself in some of those decisions. And we ended up having 3 failed transfers with the surrogate there.
Gosh.
We didn't feel we could move forward with her. She wasn't supported by the agency at all. And I think she suffered from what happened. We lost 18 months, tens and tens of thousands of dollars, and just a lot of heartache. And we decided that we couldn't end our sibling journey on such a low note.
Yeah.
So we decided that we would take as few risks as possible and go to where we thought was the best and the safest place. And that took us to the San Diego Fertility Center in California, which is an IVF clinic that specializes in surrogacy, and they do thousands a year and just know what they're doing, and they're brilliant. So I went out there twice to create embryos, and we spoke to agencies that have been doing this for 20 plus years, so clear, so transparent in how they operate. And and it all happened pretty quickly, and we met. I spoke to 5 surrogates, and then when I spoke to Holly, I had that moment of, yeah, you're the one. This
There
is
she
gonna,
is.
this, yeah,
Here you are.
yeah,
And she was a mum already.
yeah.
Yep.
She had 3 children. I remember our first call. Her and her husband Jason came on the call, and me and Ed were there. So we had a really nice conversation, the 4 of us. And I really wanted to make sure that whoever was in this person's life, so husband or partner, were also involved, because she had
thing.
3 small children, and he was going to be picking up the slack for a lot of that because she would be pregnant with our child. So we got on really well. She was just incredibly sensible and pragmatic. And one of the things I realized about surrogacy in the US is that because you have these agencies who really support and educate their surrogates, Holly knew, from sort of financially, legally, sort of emotionally, every element of the journey she was informed about.
Amazing.
So she knew rightfully what she could do, what she couldn't do. She knew what to expect from us. We knew what to expect from her. So it just meant for this incredibly balanced relationship, which is what you want.
Yes, amazing. And are you still in touch with her now?
Yeah, we are. We probably WhatsApp, I'd say every 3 months, and then we speak videos. We generally speak around the twins' birthday and Christmas. So it feels like a really lovely, appropriate relationship.
Yeah.
I think we're planning. It hasn't signed off yet, but I think we're planning to go to San Diego next summer.
This is now official.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to go back to San Diego next summer to, I want to show the twins where they were born, have a holiday there. We'll spend time with Holly and her children and Jason.
Yeah. So lovely.
That would be lovely.
So lovely. And then the moment came when you knew it was going to be twins.
Yes. Oh. So what did we do? So we kind of got our medical clearance, and we're planning the frozen embryo transfer. It was culturally different even only 5 years ago. People were doing double embryo transfers more, but we had 4 embryos, and we spoke to the doctor, and they said, let's put 2 back. So we did. And then I remember, so Holly had, so anyone who's doing IVF, they'll know all the blood tests that you have. But she went for her first blood test, and her numbers, the kind of hormone level that indicates pregnancy, were really strong. And then she went back a week later, and her numbers were high. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh. And I didn't say anything to anyone. I didn't say anything to her or Ed. And then at about 10 weeks, we had our first scan, and there were two heartbeats.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah.
That is extraordinary, isn't it?
It is.
More tears.
Lots of tears. I mean, lots
happy
of tears. Sort of happy tears, but also slightly terrified.
Yikes. Yeah.
Really?
We went into this willingly.
Yeah. But it felt, it was amazing.
Wow. And then, of course, there was a high chance of them coming a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So having to plan to go out with Isla sooner than the 37 weeks from Isla.
Yeah. Well, we had planned, I remember, because we came and saw you, I think a little bit later because we had some stuff.
Well, you were so relaxed as well. It's like, we'll figure it out.
But we suddenly came and was like, actually we do, and twins is a different dynamic. Yeah. So we came and spoke to you. And our plan, the pregnancy had been really uncomplicated. So it all looked fine. So we planned to go out at 34 weeks, which seemed actually quite conservative.
Yeah.
I know 35 weeks we were going out. And about 3 days before we were going to go out, we were at a dinner party, a barbecue or something, and we got a call from the doctor saying, don't want to alarm you, Anna. Holly's gone into labour. I'm doing a C-section in 20 minutes. And with that, he was gone because he was scrubbing in.
Yes.
And
amazing you picked up the call.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I kept thinking that they've got it wrong. They'll just push them back in. It'll be fine.
I've got stuff to do.
Yeah, I'm not ready. And an hour later, we got a call from 2 NICU nurses who were in charge of an Olive and Art, and said, they're born. They were both ventilated.
Yeah. And
said, do they have names? Which Ed and I were slightly in disagreement about names at that point. He was like, you can have whatever you want. I was like, thank you. So we had...
That's the moment to negotiate, isn't it? Yeah.
And when I walked into the hospital, I mean, it always amazes me. I had to go and see Holly first because that's how you could get into the hospital. And she just was there and burst into tears and said, I'm so sorry. I was like, how? You can't apologize.
She's just given you the gift of being
and I was like, you can't.
Twins.
I mean, it still makes me cry. It's like, you can't apologise. I went down, saw the babies. They were in incubators and they were ventilated, but they did really well. Olive came out after 2 weeks. Art came out after 3 weeks. No major disasters at all.
Amazing.
Holly was
34 weeks were they born? Yeah.
Holly
Amazing.
was healthy and fine. It all worked
A very
out.
efficient pregnancy at 34 weeks.
Yes, exactly.
I always think if you can get to something with a 3 in it, you're doing really well. Any day over 30 with twins is just wonderful.
They were big. They were both just shy of 6 pounds. Wow. So that was so much baby.
It was time.
That Holly was carrying. And then we stayed. So the difference with the US is that anyone who's born in America automatically, well, if you apply for it, can get a passport and citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
So the twins have dual citizenship and they have an American passport.
Yeah.
So we ended up staying out there for about 8 weeks by choice. We wanted them to get bigger, have some vaccinations. We also rented a beautiful house on the beach in San Diego.
Amazing. Why would you not?
Why would you not? We wanted to spend a little bit of time with Holly and her children. Her children were sort of 6, 7, and 9. So really conscious of what they'd done. And we wanted her children to see us as a family, to kind of really appreciate the gravity of what their mum had done, that she had made this family.
How special.
So that was a lovely time. And then we, so we came back after about 8 weeks.
Amazing. And was there a legal thing? Did you have to go through to get legal papers, or was that all quite smooth, in fact?
So it was easy coming back so once you're back in the UK, you're still have to adhere to UK law. And the UK law says that, well, Shabala's the mother and Holly was the mother. We didn't have, so you have to get a parental order. Which is not a difficult process. It's a well-trodden path, but you have to go through it. And it takes about 6 months to do. So as soon as you get back, you embark upon that process. There are lots of amazing lawyers to support you. And actually, because for international surrogacy, it has to be heard at the high courts. So for both parental orders, we went to the high courts. There's only a handful of judges who see the cases. And these are judges who are family judges who are used to seeing some pretty sad and pretty awful things. So they love surrogacy cases.
Amazing.
They're happy. And it was a really special day, actually. And the kind of the sort of magnitude of being at the high courts in London felt fitting for everything we'd done to get to these children. And I always remember the social worker, I have to see a social worker saying, the judges do like to see, some family members or some friends who can come with you. And we took that as read. So invited
how many?
Both our families. So in-trotted 32 people.
Oh,
and the judge said, what? We've never had so many people. And they had a really nice lunch, so it was great. Yeah. So I always say to people, it's a bit boring, that process, but by that time you've got your babies, you treat it as a celebration of everything you went through to get to them.
How extraordinary. And at any one time in that 6 months when you have to go through the legal process, did you have a little thing in the back of your mind that could the surrogate change her mind?
Well, in theory, yes. But the thing with international surrogacy is that in the countries where your babies were born, they're not the legal parents. So Holly was never on the birth certificate of our babies. So in reality, potentially, but it doesn't happen because of international. We had kind of little tips with people. Like before we went out, I had gone to our GP and let them know what we were happening, so that as soon as we've got back, we could register them with a GP. And they already knew, and they told us what paperwork we would need. Because that could be a stressful thing with a newborn, as suddenly something happens. You don't get the little red books that you used to get. So you're missing some things. So that is always an important part, to kind of think ahead so you're ready as soon as you get back with your baby.
And I imagine there's quite a lot of you educating many people around you, because it's still a really rare thing, isn't it? It's a wonderful thing, but not the well-trodden path that it might become. Thanks to people like you who are championing this route to parenthood, which is a real gift, isn't it?
I mean, it's not how anyone would choose to have their children. And it's certainly, as sometimes it's been told to me, it wasn't a choice, and it's not a luxury, and it's not the easy option. I mean, I know I say that not having given birth, but it was the light at the end of a very long and dark tunnel. So
you've certainly learned the art of patience.
Yes.
That is for sure. And now, I mean, the wonderful thing, I think, is that you're using that experience to help other parents in a similar position to you, which is just extraordinary. So what is it that you're doing now for others?
Yeah, so I now work for the San Diego Fertility Center, where we made the twins. As a clinic, we do more surrogacy than any other clinic in the world. So we are a kind of centre of excellence for surrogacy. And I kind of based here in the UK support many of our international patients. So for some people, it's just guiding them through. Some people it's, some of the logistics. And then for some people it is, well, let's look at time frame and budget and talk, introduce you to agencies and costs. So just being someone here on the ground to help guide them through that process. We didn't have that. And had we had it, it would have been a much, easier thing. We also, since COVID, there's been a shift in what you're allowed to ship. So we can now ship embryos over to the US.
Wow.
So for lots of people who can create embryos, and it's much easier and cheaper to do it in this country, we ship them from this country over to the US. So I work a lot with some of the London fertility clinics.
Yes.
So it's great to have that option. For men who are creating their families with egg donors, we ship a lot of sperm. We can freeze sperm in this country and then ship it over to the US. I was telling someone the other day that I think now I organise the shipment of more sperm than anyone else, which has been quite a change. And I used to be in fund management, and now I ship a lot of sperm.
I think that's an excellent change.
It's a great change, but it's lovely to be able to again give guys an option. It's really expensive to fly out to the States, and you want to actually go out when you're going to meet a donor or meet a surrogate.
Yes.
To fly all that way just to do your bit in a pot is a lot. So we can do it all from the UK.
I'm going to think about cargo in different ways now. It's like, what else is on this plane?
It's. I mean, I feel very lucky to be able to do this. I meet so many wonderful people, and
I bet you do.
And just being able to,
I bet you do. And everyone's been through their own, to get to the point where they're speaking to you and exploring surrogacy is quite a thing, isn't it? And am I right in think there are two types of surrogacy? There's gestational and traditional.
Yeah. So gestational is where you're using the egg of someone else to a surrogate. There's no biological link with the surrogate.
Yep.
Traditional is where you're using a surrogate's eggs.
Yep.
And we, as a clinic, don't do traditional surrogacy. I think it is considered now that traditional surrogacy is something very different.
Right. Yes, interesting.
To gestational surrogacy.
Yeah. So if you're a same-sex couple, you would have a donor egg.
Yeah.
And
a surrogate.
Or depending which sex you are, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and lots of people...
And this is sorry to interrupt you. Something I've always been curious about.
Yep.
So if you are a same-sex couple, is it known whose sperm or whose eggs you're using? Or is it just potluck and time will tell as they grow?
So no.
Is that a very naive question?
Yeah, not at all. So lots of different couples do different things. So lots of couples... if you've got two men, they both want to create biological embryos. So what we tend to do is pick one donor that we're going to get quite a few eggs from, split those eggs in half, and then do one each or half each. Yeah. And then it will be their choice, and they know which is their embryos, and then it'll be a conversation with the doctor. Who goes first? Yes. And often I speak to couples and. Maybe one's older or one, quite often they say, well, my parents don't have any grandchildren, so we're going to go first. So it's often, they make that decision. I think maybe you could leave it to the doctor, but that doesn't happen. Or for some people, only one person in the partnership are going to create embryos.
Yeah.
yeah.
How amazing.
Yeah.
And that must be an extraordinary conversation to have as a couple. Do they, I guess there's lots of time for them to talk about it
Yeah, I
in
think
advance.
so.
I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing.
But I think it is, again, kind of testament to you have to have lots, if you are a heterosexual couple having children by sex, you don't have any of these conversations. No. So again, it's being considerate of what people have gone through and the conversations and the questioning they've had to get to this point.
Yeah.
And it does inform so much about how someone's going to pursue their journey and their expectations. So it's really important to listen to people at what stage they are, and then what we try and do is kind of support them on that journey that's right, that's going to be right for them.
It's phenomenal. And I guess some people go either wanting to control everything or actually not sweating the small stuff because you've been through this extraordinary journey. And I'm sure we don't know until you're in that position which way you'll go. So you being a wonderful, wise ear must be such a blessing. I just need to speak to Anna.
I know. I do sometimes say, I don't think this is where we should worry.
Yeah,
our time.
But it's so hard.
But it is impossible. And I say all of this with hindsight. Yeah. I always say to people, when Holly was pregnant with the twins, she always said she had 2 jobs. One was to grow and look after our babies in the way she did for her own children. And the second thing was to manage me, which was a much harder job.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because I just was
so hard. And Ed had to manage you as well.
I was so anxious.
Yeah.
And bless you, for Holly, this was incredibly important to her, but she had her own 3 young children. It wasn't everything.
Yes.
And so me texting every 20 minutes saying, how are you feeling? Have they kicked today? Was not helpful. So we agreed quite a formal time frame for communication. So when she went to bed and when she woke up, she would text.
Yeah.
And then once a week, we would have a phone call.
Yeah, amazing.
But it just meant that I knew when the information was coming, so I wasn't going to stress about it, and then I wasn't going to bug her throughout the day if she hadn't responded to a message in 20 minutes.
Yeah. Goes back to your transparency thing, doesn't it? Open communication, being very frank, setting boundaries.
Yeah.
But that communication, so you knew.
Yeah.
And no news is good news,
exactly.
and all of that. And were you and Ed able to concentrate at work? I mean, it's such a huge thing, this. Or was work actually quite helpful?
I think work was probably quite helpful. If again, with the twins, because we'd been through it, I was much more open. So I told people much earlier on.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was a helpful distraction.
Thank goodness for work.
Yes.
Anna's working incredibly hard this month. And then you took time off. Did both of you took the 8 weeks in San Diego, and then did Ed have to go straight back?
Actually, no, he timed taking some gardening leave. He switched jobs.
Perfect.
So actually, we then had a year. I think it was a year, which was lovely.
Yeah.
Although he always jokes that sort of usually when people's gardening leave, they go off, surfing and travelling around the world. And he's that. My gardening leave was looking after twins.
100 nappies a week.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
So, well, we asked for it. We took that time. And then afterwards, the job I was doing before was not possible with 3 young children. I couldn't be as present as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so I took some time and then found... I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but I think found my calling kind of doing this.
But how wonderful, though. How absolutely wonderful to have gone through that and to be able to share it so that it helps other people. And I'm curious to know, did the San Diego clinic approach you, or did you approach them, or were you just constantly in touch and thought, oh my gosh, these are my people?
We were always in contact, and there's a chap called Richard Westerby, who he also worked for them and is based in this country. And he was doing something...
I know Richard. Yeah, I love you, Richard.
I think you might have helped.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes,
I think you did his twins.
Absolutely did. Yeah.
Who are now
gorgeous,
about 12.
Richard. Oh my goodness me, that makes me feel very old.
Yeah. So Richard was doing... It was actually Richard who introduced me to San Diego. And then he's still within the San Diego family, but doing something else. So I kind of took on from him. And
Amazing.
in the early days, it's a nice partnership to, he is gay and therefore kind of, could talk to sort of that element. Whereas as a heterosexual couple, I probably have more insight into what a woman goes through.
Yes.
So that helped as well.
And I think you both needed to have gone through it in order to give that validation and authority speaking to other people. Because I think unless you've been through it, we can imagine, but we really have no idea. It's an extraordinary thing. And you talk about it with the children?
Yes, we do. We talked about it with them, even before they could sort of understand it. I wanted it. I mean, I think we all know that children thrive on consistency and no big surprises. So, they've got memorabilia from India and San Diego, respectively, in their nurseries. We've just always talked about it. Not, it's not something that defines, not every day. It's not, but it's just normal language in our house. And they both know, they all know even that mummy's tummy's broken and therefore another mummy helped grow them. It's funny, I was telling, Isla was saying, what are you doing today? And I was saying I was coming to do a podcast. And she's like, oh, you're going on again about what a miracle I am. I'm like, well, yes, I am. But I want them to, we've talked about it proudly and consistency since day one. And I want them to talk about how they came into this world with pride. So that's sort of what we've aimed to do.
Yeah, wonderful thing. And if there's one pearl of wisdom that you could give to any mother who is expecting their child via a surrogate?
I think certainly with Isla, I carried, and I think I said it before, I carried guilt that I couldn't do this, that as a woman, you're meant to be able to have a baby. And no one ever said it was my fault. And no one ever said, I should have done something differently. And Ed never said, oh gosh, I wish you were pregnant. I still really carried that. And I speak to lots of friends who are pregnant. And they all say, it wasn't when I was pregnant that I felt like I was a mother. I became a mother when a baby was in my arms. And I wish I knew that, because I think the pregnancy was tarnished with this, am I deserving enough to be a mother because I won't have carried this child? And I now know that being a good mother, I hope I try every day to be a good mother. I'm constantly making mistakes, but it's about consistency. It's about just being there every day. And
loving them.
Yeah, just loving them and being there.
Yeah, giving them a roof over their head if you can.
Yeah.
Some food's helpful.
Yes.
Consistency, as you say, and that giving them that self-confidence, self-esteem that they can have roots and wings.
Yeah.
It's that, I know this now with Mia and Poppy just on the, Mia's left home, Poppy's just on the verge, which is extraordinary. Yeah. The first 5 years, I was basically marrying them. They weren't going anywhere. Yeah. And cotton wool all round. But actually, that's no good. They've got to fly their own path.
Absolutely.
And however they appear in this world, what a blessing. And I think societally, that's an extraordinary thing, isn't it? That also I get the same sentiment from mums who've delivered via C-section. Right. Oh, but I didn't give birth naturally. My gosh, a human being has just been made. It's like an absolutely magical, miraculous thing. So I don't know what it is, but there's something in our psyche, isn't there? Or, I have to do it this way and I have to do it without an epidural or without gas. No. Yeah. As long as the baby is born safe and well and mother is fine, parents are fine, all of that, you're doing a wonderful, and the ripple effects of you, Anna and Ed bringing another 3 children, 3 humans into the world is huge, because you're brilliant parents, and how wonderful your legacy is.
I always say because of surrogacy, I met 2 unbelievable women that I wouldn't have met had I not done this, who'd from different parts of the world, thousands of miles apart, but I have literally come face to face with the level of generosity that makes me want to cry and pinch myself every day. And the children know that.
Extraordinary.
And I love the fact that they know how much love and hard work and commitment it took to bringing them into this world.
Yeah, phenomenal. I'm going to have to ask you one more pearl of wisdom, because you're just a font of wonderful knowledge. This one would be, what pearl of wisdom would you give to any expectant parents, mums and dads, or 2 dads or 2 mums, who are just considering the surrogacy journey? And at the outset, what would you say to them?
I would say find the experts. A successful surrogacy journey is about putting together a team that you trust.
Mm-hmm.
So you need an agency, and you need a clinic, and you need a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And find those people, trust in their expertise and their experience. Still put yourself in the middle of it. Be there always in the middle. Advocate for yourself. But this is a huge, huge thing you're doing. And you're talking about human life, bringing it into the world. You rely on those people who have done it. But do your due diligence, find the experts, make sure you really research and talk, and talk to people who've been through it.
Wonderful.
But absolutely, that's
amazing.
the first thing.
Anna, you're just an absolute legend.
Oh,
thank
no,
you
thank
so
you for
much
having me.
for sharing all of that. I could speak to you for days. But how wonderful. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, well, thank you for listening, and thank you for helping me spread the word about it. So.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please do like, share and subscribe to our Anita's List podcast show to stay up to date with our latest conversations. Together, we can all be part of the village to support new parents.